That was just a pose by me, so people would leave me alone. I needed to buy some time.
Robert Vance was a pioneer in digital technology and the founder of renowned software company Vance. In his advanced age, he suffered from an incurable brain disorder that prompted him to digitize his brain impulses and incorporate it into a computer program. The program would allegedly serve as a guide to his company. However, Robert had a hidden agenda and lay dormant for over 30 years, biding his time. The reason for all of this is because Robert is a power-hungry individual who shows signs of having a god complex as he's driven by an intense desire for control and immortality. Robert is also extremely violent and manipulative, as we'll see throughout the episode. He truly has zero regard for others, even his own son and grandson. So with that brief summary out the way, let me quickly go ahead and mention the episode that I'll be going over and discuss how I'll break it down. The episode we'll be looking at is titled Lost Soul. And like always, there will be some skips taken within the episode, but as usual, that's just to stay focused on our villain of the day. So now, let's dive right into Lost Soul. The episode begins with a newscast reporting on the death of Robert Vance, owner of the Vance Computer Company. Knowing that he was dying from an incurable brain disorder, Robert took steps to safeguard his company by digitizing his mind into a computer program which would act as a helpful advisor for future owners. After his investors shut his AI down, preferring to run the company without him, Robert lay dormant for over 30 years waiting to enact his evil plan. 35 years later, Robert's grandson, Bobby, sought the AI program to assist him with running the company he had just inherited after Robert's son passed away. Robert quickly cuts Bobby off and uses Bobby's lonesome feeling as a way to manipulate him into putting him back online, claiming that he just wanted to do some exploring. So this scene obviously showcases both the manipulative ways of Robert and his blatant disregard for others, as he completely dismisses the information about his son dying. However, it also gives us a glimpse at his violent nature, as during the conversation with Bobby, Robert gets angry and yells to do it, basically demanding to be put back online. And to circle back to his manipulative ways, after yelling, he says,
Please, Bobby. I've been cooped up in here a long time.
And then says that he wants to find out what's been going on in the world. That's all. However, we, the audience, know that's a complete lie. After being put back online, Robert roamed free and quickly gathered information from various sources so that he could execute his plan to transfer his consciousness into a living body. Eventually, he starts to shut down parts of Gotham's grid in search of his information. Skipping ahead, at the Batcave, Bruce tells Terry that the AI has been hoarding information such as biology, physiology, neurology, and so on. Now, I know this scene isn't much, but it shows us where Robert's focus is, and it gives us our first real hint at what his evil plan could be. Well, it would give us a hint if we didn't already know. Anyways, skipping ahead again, Batman makes it to the power plant where the program has taken over and tries to shut the power down. Unfortunately, the program activates the automated defense systems, making it impossible for the power to be shut down except from the central control. Once Batman goes into stealth mode, he manages to sneak into the power plant, but literally out of nowhere, a stray cat wanders in and alerts the defenses. Batman then saves the cat, thank God, and manages to shut off the power, but is too late to avoid being hit by the laser. Believing he's not seriously injured, Batman tells Bruce that the trouble is over, and so he tells Batman to head back out on patrol. Out in the city, a gang of thieves are attempting to break into a powerless ATM, but Batman shows up and stops them. However, before he can continue on, the suit begins to malfunction. Soon, it refuses altogether to respond to his movements, and communications with Bruce are cut off. Instead, Terry hears Robert's voice downloaded into the suit by way of the laser blast back at the power plant. Under Robert's control, the suit, with Terry inside, starts to walk into the ocean. Robert then tells Terry that he intends to download himself into a new body. So this whole scene circles back to 4 things I said at the beginning, with those being Robert being extremely violent, Robert having zero regard for others, Robert having a deep desire for control, and Robert being power hungry as he attempts to drown Terry while telling him that there's no point in fighting due to him being in control and being more powerful than Terry because of the suit's strength and abilities. It's crazy to think how, even in AI form, Robert became so lost in his own twisted reality and wicked perspective of a god. So much so that he fails to see that he, even in his AI form, could never reach god status. But anyways, back to the episode. Realizing something is wrong, Bruce hits the kill switch in the Batsuit, which prevents Terry from walking further into the water, but it leaves him immobilized in said water as the tide comes in. Just after it covers his head, Bruce arrives personally in the Batmobile and rescues him. Back at the Batcave, Bruce talks about reprogramming the suit, but he and Terry decide to leave the task until later. As soon as they leave, however, the suit gets up by itself. Skipping ahead yet again, acting through the suit, Robert finds Bobby in the Vance Enterprises building and injects him with a sedative. Meanwhile, on the roof, Terry breaks into the air shafts and makes his way to Robert's lab. He watches as Robert wires Bobby to a machine, explaining that he plans to download his mind into a living body. Bobby's body, and the process will erase Bobby's mind, but that hardly matters. This, yet again, goes back to Robert being extremely violent as he drugs and kidnaps Bobby and then begins trying to steal his body, which would completely wipe away who Bobby was. And because of this act of evil, it also circles back to what I said about Robert having zero regard for others, including his grandson, as after Bobby asks what will happen to him and where he'll go, Robert tells him, quote, "wherever deleted programs go." But anyways, back to the episode. While examining Bobby, Robert accidentally catches his arm in an electromagnetic field and temporarily loses control over it. Terry notices this and now has a plan of attack. The transfer then begins, but Terry manages to interrupt it. However, his melee attacks are ineffective against the suit, and when Robert activates its stealth mode, he attacks with an exploding batarang that triggers explosives in Terry's belt. Terry then hurls the belt at Robert and the explosion manages to disable the suit's stealth mode. Terry and Robert fight for a while, but the suit is much stronger and nearly invulnerable to damage. However, he manages to get hold of a sharp steel rod from the wall and wraps a power cable around it. He then jams said pole into the suit and plugs it into a power outlet, overloading the suit and erasing the program. And that would be the last time we ever saw Robert Vance within Batman Beyond. As I said in the beginning, Robert is an extremely violent and manipulative AI/man who let his overwhelming desire to become a god be his downfall. And not just physically and or mechanically, but also morally. He let the idea of becoming something more corrupt him, and because of that corruption, he was simply never able to become that something more. And it was that very same corruption that led him to losing all empathy and sympathy, even for his own blood, who were completely innocent and loving. But now, moving off of the life and personality of Robert Vance and on to his design and voice actor. This will honestly be rather quick. Robert's main design simply consists of a floating head on a big screen or on little screens. Truthfully, it reminds me of the spirit of the Harvest Moon from Courage the Cowardly Dog. It makes me wonder if the creators of Courage got the idea for the Harvest Moon's design from Robert Vance. But that's a possible discussion for another time and another video. Anyways, outside of that, there's truthfully not much else to say about his design, as there's just not really anything else to it. So now, we'll move on to the voice actor of Robert Vance, with that being Stacy Keach. And for those that didn't know, he played Warden Henry Pope in Prison Break, Robert Vesco in The Blacklist, and Neil Delacroce in Gotti, as well as many, and I do mean many, other great roles. So huge shout out to Stacy Keach. With all that said though, this has been the Reanimated Villainy of Robert Vance. If you made it this far into the video, leave a comment saying who your favorite AI/digital villain is within DC Comics. I always love to hear y'all's opinions. Also, like always, huge shout out to Mercenary X84, Best Man Gamer, Nomadic Hood, MRJ7, and Cody Mack for being members. I know it's past old at this point, but I seriously am appreciative for all the support that y'all show me, as it genuinely means a lot to me. So again, huge shout out to the lot of you. And the same goes for everyone else. Thank you all so much for supporting me. As I just said, I know this is past old, but I seriously can't thank you all enough. Y'all are truly the best, and I'm extremely grateful to have each of you making up this beautiful community that we're forming. So again, massive thank you to all of you. But anyways, with my ramblings finally out the way, it's been ugly, and I'll see y'all in the next one.